This is a Momentum Media production.
Investing Insights with Right Property Group, exploring trends in real estate and helping property investors gain financial security.
After 2 years, they're back in the studio. You think something had stopped them coming in live, recording, Investing Insights, Right Property Group, face-to-face, in full high definition, Stephen. It ain't a nice sight, Steve Waters.
Can you see the cameras on him, Vic? It's those filters that he used to put on, and when you see him in real life, it's just different.
Yeah, and a lot hasn't changed in the 2 years because we still have to beg for our coffee, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what? Because we were doing another podcast beforehand, he says, "Oh, Steve, I'm going to be 5 minutes late." He said, "Do you want a coffee?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love one." He goes, "Can you go buy us all one?" I kid you not. And it was like, are you for real here? Like, no.
Yeah, so nothing's changed in 2 years.
No, nothing has changed. And much like the property market, Vic, I like things to be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And consistency is key, Steve.
Thank you.
So, that, by the way, that's Victor Kumar and Steve Waters, directors at Right Property Group. Phil Tarrant here, co-host Investing Insights at Right Property Group. Season number
36.
Yeah, 6. God.
Yeah, time's slow.
And has it literally been 2 years since we've done this in the studio? We've been using the marvels of the Zoomarium for the last period of time. And I must admit, it hasn't detracted too much from the quality of the content we've been able to create. And I'd like to think, Vic, that we've navigated with a sense of sensibility the COVID pandemic. Are we still in that? Well, there's still plenty of cases about the economic impact around it still being felt. The societal impact is still being felt. The health impact is still being felt. But there is now, rightfully, wrongfully, depends which way you view the world, a sense of normalisation around it and acceptance that we are living with it, and this is the way it is. So this is a show about property investing, so we should probably keep it within the context of property investing, Vic, but it has been 2 years.
Yes, it has. And you're right, Phil. It hasn't really changed, right? So from a property point of view, yes, you have your ebbs and flows, largely due to market sentiment and largely due to the psychology of the investor. But the informed investor knows that investing is a long-term play. It's not short-term. It does need to be reactive to the opportunities on the market then and there based on what else is happening, COVID, finance, and the likes. But the fundamentals never change provided you're actually buying towards a result and not buying towards a ego point of view.
Well, I think that's the key, isn't it? Like, in its real sense, investing or being an investor is about the long term. When you're trying to invest in, regardless of what's going on in the environment or ecosystem at that point in time, or even for the short term, if you're not approaching it that way as an investor or investing, you are speculating.
Absolutely. And that's when you lose opportunity and you lose capitalizing on the market. So quite often we hear investors or wannabe investors that are looking to get started, but hang on, I was afraid of what's going to happen during COVID because my employment was unstable, so I missed the market, the big growth. But the reality is that was not your market because you had employment issues. So it was not safe for you to invest at that point in time.
So the big question then, and this is what most Aussies are grappling with, Aussie investors, is with all of the, what some people would view as headwinds facing us at the moment, is it the right time to buy real estate? And this is the, as Steve Woodard would say, the $50 billion question. Is that what you normally say? It's a $50 billion question?
Well, it depends on the day.
Okay.
It's up to $6 trillion.
The $6 trillion question is it actually the right time to buy? Now, let's chat about some of those headwinds. And no doubt you guys see the headwinds as tailwinds, and that's the sort of counter-cyclical approach to how most effective investors operate. But what are those headwinds? Well, it's a market in a state of flux, Victor. It is a rising rate environment, and you should at least be pricing in maybe another 1% this year into your personal mathematics and budgetary constraints. We're a rising inflation environment. However, I know that some of those inflationary pressures are starting to soften, and there's already signs in the market that we are moving back towards a period of normal target band for inflation. Back in 2024, I think the RBA thinks we should be back to that sort of 2-3%. So it is a moment in time. It is a headwind for many Australians. The collective cost of living plus the increasing mortgage repayments for a lot of homeowners and investors is a concern. So these are all rightful headwinds. We spoke recently with Steve Waters on a different podcast around some of the changing dynamics and regulation legislation from some state governments, Queensland included, around how they would be attracting or dealing with property investors in their area. We have ongoing rising tensions around geopolitics in Australia's partner world. You know, think about what's been happening in Taiwan recently, some of the sabre rattling up there, and China's very clear intent around its ambitions to unify China and Taiwan by 2042, I think it is. Closer to home, we have a new government still finding its feet. All this stuff for a lot of Australian investors goes, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit on my hands and wait to see what happens. And that's what most will do. But I imagine there are some who you're probably working with, the Right Property Group, who see the world very differently.
I think you missed a really big one there, point, and that is sentiment.
Yes.
Because the media, the news, the atmosphere that we consume, consciously or subconsciously, has a direct bearing on what we're going to do moving forward. And at the moment, you're only Morgan Stanley polls, the Westpac ones, the NAB ones, all shows consumer sentiment lower than what it was at the onset of COVID all those years ago, which seems like yesterday, really. And even on that, when you look at what's happened in the last 3 years as a result of COVID, some would say, and some would say not, it's been an enormous, we've seen a 180-degree turnaround in market, and now starting its second revolution, I guess. But the sentiment piece, until that changes en masse, then it'll be a state of status quo, is what I believe.
So what you're saying then is most people are clouded by what's going on in their head when it's framing and shaping their attitudes to investing in property. That is a collective sentiment that
Correct.
You're talking about there.
Yeah, because they're not approaching it in a methodical, strategic way. And it's a couple of years ago, I wrote a blog on challenging people to identify what type of investor you are. And I had to bring it up. Are you the observer, sits back, does nothing, just looks, but has plenty to say?
Sounds like me.
Yeah, very true. The speculator, which we've seen
Sounds like me.
plenty of. No, you're not a speculator. No. The collector, people that just buy,
For the sake of buying.
for the sake of buying. So how many front doors? Look at me. You're a hoarder.
I'm a hoarder.
Yeah, you're different. Yeah.
Well, I buy and hold. Isn't that what you're supposed to do?
No, just in life.
Okay.
But, and then you have the investor at the end, and
Like a proper investor.
like a proper investor that is strategic, that is methodical, that is for the long term.
So do I fall in that bucket? You're going to give me a compliment?
No, no. Look, you are, because you're surrounded, like that whole notion around you are who you surround yourself with. Every day, you're surrounding yourself with people from different sectors of the greater industry, and you absorb that. And
it's a really good point. It's a fortunate position. We sort of joke about this sort of being 6 seasons in, Vic, and I've been really fortunate to learn a lot about property from you guys, from very early days. And so now I'm able to look at stuff, and I'm sort of mentioning all those headwinds, right, which a lot of people are struggling with. But, having known you guys for quite some time, you'd be looking at what the inverse of those headwinds are and how do you turn them into tailwinds. And I think that there lends itself to this sort of discussion around, is it the right time to buy? I know there's a lot of Aussie investors, Vic, who have come accustomed to the market over the last couple of years where if you own property in Australia, guess what? You're getting richer every day by the tune of thousands of dollars, right? Because your property's just going up in value. And if you held lots of property, your personal wealth was going up daily in tens of thousands of dollars, probably you guys included, right? Yeah, and that's a good thing, but you don't really ever realise that wealth until you do something about it. So a lot of people who are accustomed now to a certain sense of mindset of how property should operate in Australia, and this has really probably shifted on the head. So no doubt people are satisfied with the lifestyle that they had, which now might start changing as a result of these pressures that we're seeing. It's a big question for a lot of Aussies.
Absolutely it is. And the reality of it is the three of us are blessed with having the ability to talk to people of many walks of life. And with that collective banter, with collective conversations, we are able to form a fairly strong judgment of where the market's heading, what people are generally thinking, but also more importantly, we are also learning of people by osmosis because their thought process gets us to challenge our thought process. And every now and then we have the aha moment of something that we already know, that we already knew inside us, but it's just hasn't been brought to the surface, and you sort of say, hey, I knew that. And that flows on to, the age-old question of, is this the right time to buy? It's the wrong question. The correct question should be, is this the right time for me to buy? And then you need to look at all of the things that impact your investing ability. First of all, what type of investor you are, Steve.
I think that's key.
Yeah, that's the key. So you need to know yourself first in terms of how you are investing, how you're making your decisions, and more importantly, how you're reacting to crises. Because even if there is no COVID, even if there is no GFC or financial crisis, there will always be a crisis within your portfolio. And it could be a repair, maintenance. It could be that you've forgotten to renew your insurances. So how do you react to that is the first key that you need to look at. Then the second thing you need to look at is obviously the ability over the longer term to hold onto the investments. Note the word investments, not investment. So what that means is that you need to look at what your operating costs are, not just the property, but the entire household budget and how it's going to be impacted. Is there a baby on the way? Are you going to change employment? Because that will all impact the lifestyle changes you'll need to make to help hold on to your portfolio over the longer term without adding financial stress to it. Then once you've done that, then the next thing to decide really is, okay, what type of property, what opportunity do I focus on to take into account what the market's doing, and importantly, how it fits in within the portfolio that I've already got. Once you've addressed that, that's the time you can actually come to a decision to say, okay, is this the right time to purchase for me? It could be that everyone else is buying, just like I said earlier on. If your employment was shaky during COVID and you said, I've missed the market. No, you haven't. You've kept yourself safe by not investing at that time when it was actually unsafe for you to invest.
So you've got so many contextual layers there, which for most Aussie investors, and you probably deal with them every single day, they just never end up doing anything. So they get to a point and they go, well, I'm not going to do it now because it's not right time for me to invest. But then you fast forward 10 years and it might be too late for them to invest, to actually make an impact which is materially intangible to setting them up for a more favourable, financially stable retirement. So, you know, you say, well, it might not be the right time now, but I'm sure you can always find a time and always find a reason in Australian property to not invest.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the observer that you're probably talking about.
That's the observer, absolutely.
Well, I think you're right there, because you'll always find a reason to do something or not. It just really depends on how motivated and prepared you are. At the end of the day, those that succeed, whether it be in business or property investing or whatever it may be to them, there is an element of preparation, a big element of preparation. Yeah. Then there's activation, and then there's monitoring, and there's adjustment. Those, and we've said this many times, those that go into or that invest in any asset class for mine in a passive manner, they're asking for trouble. They're asking for trouble. And being not passive or being active within your asset class doesn't necessarily mean that it consumes you, but as with any business, whether you're a self-employed taxi driver or Momentum Media or whatever, there are checks and measures, there are budgets, there are staff, and there are plans, and there is monitoring. Yeah, and there's a goal, and that goal is to grow, just like your property portfolio should, and present a certain amount of cash flow. And that, for me, is why people stop. Yeah, to be fair, there are times when no one should invest because the market may dictate. Very rarely, though, will you have an overall market where every corner and every square inch is going to be
perfect.
backwards.
What do they say about perfect? What is around sort of perfect planning?
Perfection prevents progress.
Perfection.
Something like that.
Imperfect action is better than perfect inaction is what I'm looking for. And there's always in property markets, there's always a reason why not to buy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's always a reason to buy. Now, a lot of maybe less sophisticated investors probably sit there going, well, I'm ready, but I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait until the perfect time. I'll wait. I can buy now, but I'll just wait for the perfect time.
Most people, when they're investing, right, they have the adage of ready, aim, fire, right? But most people go ready, aim, they forget to fire. Or some people, they go fire, ready, aim. Yeah. So they're reactive to the media, they're reactive to what everyone else is doing around in the circles, and they go out and buy something. So this is the investor that's more reactive, not from a fundamental point of view, but from a now I've got to take action.
And I reckon if you look at the recent census data, Victor, they'd be the Australian investor that only own one property.
Correct.
Yep.
But I also think there's, over the last couple of years, let's call it the last 5 years, there's a sense of, I'm going to call it the crypto mindset to investing in property.
Instant wins.
Yeah, where it's just quick, like that. Quick decision, quick in. I'm making the $1,000 a day. This is all so easy, so I will start to speculate even further and take on, perhaps investment stock assets and not well thought out of. And then as with what crypto is experiencing at the moment, it's suffering other than the last couple of weeks, but it's extremely peaks and troughs.
Do you know who's most benefiting from crypto? Advertisers, I reckon, because every single bus and bus shelter and every single advert on TV is some new crypto exchange where you can buy and sell crypto really easily.
But you know what? People would, for the last 2 years, maybe 18 months even, same thing with property.
Yeah.
Every second ad, like I was on our Facebook Live the other day, we were talking about, how there's a lot of ads on buses and a lot of them were real estate agents, Phil, the best agent in Kirribilli.
There is actually a lot of that going around at the moment.
But I saw on the back of a bus someone had bought the advertising space and said, I bought this space so a real estate agent wouldn't. and that's all. There was no, you wouldn't know who it was from or anything. It just said, I bought this space so a real estate agent
Someone's
wouldn't.
got too much time and money, I reckon.
Well, but...
When are we going to see Steve Waters on the back of the bus wearing a polo shirt?
You should ask me if I'm a bus driver.
Thumbs up.
Never. No, it's...
Most buyers agents you see on the social media these days, don't you?
You see a lot of them on there. And I guess, look...
I blame you guys for the proliferation of buyers agents.
Why so?
You've just made it look so easy.
Well, we've got the unique honor of creating our own competition.
You've done it many, many times, and I know a lot of these people, right?
Correct. And that's good. We like that because, that's a big world. And I think the more that the general public get to see of this industry from the good people, it's great. Yeah. It's more choice. It exposes the industry sometimes in the bad, but also the good. And at the end of the day, we're after choice.
Well, I've got a thesis on this that the rapid acceleration of buyers agents in Australia, because it just gets more and more complicated. And there's a lot of Aussies that go out there and do it themselves, and good on them.
Yeah.
Look, I think
and it works for some.
Yeah, being complicated, right? It really isn't if you got someone to guide you. So, like very good athletes, they could still train on their own. They could still do it on their own.
Good analogy.
But they have coaches for different aspects of their career.
Yeah.
And investing's no different. You could do it on your own.
You can do it, and people do.
Yeah, absolutely. And they do it well as well. But if you brought in the catalyst a la a very well connected property strategies that's gone through the multiple property cycles so that you're also leveraging off their mistakes, their experiences as well, you are able to accelerate that journey, and you have those pertinent advice of when is it too early to start or when it is too late. Because if you leave it on the earlier comment, if you leave it till too late, the selection of the property and the selection of the strategy becomes so exact that there comes a point in time where you have to draw the line in the sand and say, I have actually left it too late.
Yeah, because there could be the intent, or good intent may be there, but the economics may change.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a general sense. And I agree with that. That's a very good point. So rather than, when should I start? It's when should I stop?
Yeah. I think that's a big question, an important question to answer as well.
Well, when you should stop, it's going to be completely determinant on when you started, right? And when you think of it also, much like if you've got retail or industry super, depending where you are on your lifestyle as a worker will determine the type of fund that you're invested in, and it's a risk appetite, right? So the risk inflection point happens multiple times as a property investor, and you've got a moment in time probably in the middle of your journey where it's quite moderate and you can benefit from not throwing caution to the wind. But I would argue probably earlier on in your investing journey, if you start young, and we're talking about, is it the right time to buy, but when it's too late, you can throw caution to the wind and have a higher risk appetite if you start early.
You've got time on your side.
But if you start too late, there's an inverse of that risk equation, but you're forced to be inherently more risky because the type of asset that may give you the growth that you need or the positioning you need because you don't have time on your side is going to be a very different sort of risk profile. So it's a tough one. I'm sure some nerds sort of worked this out somewhere? Probably you have. You know, you're a massive.
Just for the, I was about to say, just for the
good-looking
I
bloke.
just called you a geek, you're the nerd.
You're pointing to Vic there, right?
Yeah. Don't worry, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
It's but at the later stage,
The term of endearment, by the way, Vic.
now look at him grovel. But at the later stage of life, I think we see it a lot where people, especially if the market cycle, I guess, fits into it, people say, well, this is my get out stakes. I'm all in because I have
Big risk.
very limited time to get the result. Until there were speculative investments like crypto, where that's probably, when it's booming, everyone's a,
I saw some numbers, and I'm probably getting this wrong.
and I'm not advocating crypto, furthest thing from the truth, but it's easy to get in.
Easy to get out as
Easy
well.
to get out.
and you can double with small amounts of money, right? You can be a crypto investor with $100, right?
But that is the purest form of speculation, and I guess some would call it pure insider trading to some degree.
It's just a big.
But if you were to do that with property, there's a lot of in costs, there's a lot of out costs, there's a lot longer, no matter how good the market is. It has to go up 40% for you to minimum for you to warrant trading out of it.
Yeah, we spoke about the Australian government's investment in Australian property, right? Like very different than crypto. You know, like
Massively.
crypto, Australian government, state governments aren't getting too much of a drink out of Aussies investing in crypto, but they're getting the fair drink out of Aussies investing in property. But I saw some numbers, Steve, and I'll have to go back to the source. But remember, I went, it was like a huge amount of people who invest in Australia invest in crypto. Like
Massive
it was 30%, 30 or 35% of all investors investing in crypto in some form. I don't know if you guys.
I've got.
So you're a crypto investor?
No, I've got a.
You're a crypto bazillionaire?
Bazillion. I have a good dinner out with a bunch of mates invested.
Okay.
Like literally that. It's only because it's the only way that I can try to
Understand it
and learn about it. And it's for giggles at the end of the day. But coming back to what you said around how many 30% of people that invest in crypto, I'd love to see an age breakup on that. I reckon you'd see the younger generation.
Yeah.
I don't know if there'd be too middle ground in there, and I think you'd see a proportion of the elder
cohort just getting stuck into it, trying to find something to do on
get out stakes, right? But but as we spoke about before, that because of asset classes like crypto, I think that's had and the mindset, I guess, that comes with that type of investing, we see a flow-on effect through that into the residential property space as well, like without doubt. But thanks to COVID, and we've spoke about this before, the clunkiness of real estate transactions is also, I'm going to say, halved.
Mortgage documents, contracts signed all digitally.
Yeah, and when you've got a market that is perpetuating.
There's a lot less friction in the transaction. But on the other side of it, I don't know how you guys are going with all this digital IDing and stuff. I find that I love it. Yeah.
Do it once, do it right.
Yeah.
Move on, old man.
Okay.
It's just, but it's so
old internet 3.0 over here, Vic.
Metaverse.
You're still stuck in the MySpace days.
Metaverse.
Hey, what about investing in property in the metaverse, Steve? You guys providing any advice or recommendations on that yet?
Just watch this space. No.
Actually, I think you and I own a piece of Mars or the moon, I think it is.
The moon.
Yeah, there was this a fad going around, and we got gifted land. I'm not sure whether it was Mars or the moon, but that we've got the gift certificate still there.
I'm a Scottish landholder.
I took 1,000 square metre corner block just for future subdivision.
Yeah. I can see you there with your Martian mates.
You're one of them, little green Phil.
Green Phil.
That's only on Saturday mornings.
I'm a Scottish laird, I think. I've got the certificate.
Okay, so you're just a lord. You're not a landlord.
No, I'm not a landlord. I'm just a lord. I can go pitch my tent and keep the peasants off my land, Stephen.
With all your haggis.
Yes. I'll go shooting for pheasants, and then I'll go and sit on my bit of land. But
well, you are legitimately a landholder now.
Oh yeah.
You've got
some. Yeah, well, some I try to be, but so
you actually have land. I won't say where or what it is, but you've got land that some would argue is cheaper per square metre than good Italian tiles.
Well, us struggling farmers, Steve, we're the backbone of this great nation.
Yes, you are.
We keep it. We toil the land. We provide produce for the Australian community. We help with the the sovereignty of this nation, our self-reliance and our resilience. The farmers of this great nation are
Just a quick question. What are you farming?
things. A lot of grass, actually.
Yeah.
So right now we've got a lot of fertilizer,
natural
right?
grass. Yeah.
Natural grass, not the version that
Grows vertically.
that grows vertically. Looks like tomatoes. No, that's not it. But I would know it's a good time for farmers at the moment. I read the land. I read the land every Friday night, Steve. You'd like this?
You buy it Thursdays?
I buy
when
it,
comes
yeah,
out?
and I read it every single Friday. I sit there.
Do you know I still do that too?
Yeah.
Without fail. All jokes aside, it's
You're a landholder as well. I know
Yes.
Vic, you're a landholder as well.
But it's cyclical. I mean, rural investing, which is, I do a bit of that as well. It is a cyclical thing, and we're coming into a stage where, well, actually, I'll backtrack. That type of investment class is for the people that either have very, very big, deep pockets and are well connected, or they actually have an understanding of the asset class.
Yeah.
For the in-betweeners, it's not
I
something
have
that I would do.
zero understanding of the asset class. I find the land we're talking about the newspaper, which is still big and thick and full of adverts, and I get excited about sheds and all the equipment that you can waste your money on. But
If Phil rings me Friday, Steve, what do you reckon of this tractor? What do you think of this bobcat? What do you reckon of this?
you see what cattle prices right now?
Record highs, just so.
I know my neighbour laughs at me quite a lot. Who actually know they're the sort of people that know what they're doing. But let's talk about rural investment, Steve.
Do you know what? I was just, as you were saying that, Phil, sorry to interrupt, but as you were just saying that and I tuned out, this podcast is like the Jerry Seinfeld. Was he on?
Seinfeld.
Yeah, the show about nothing. This podcast, I feel, today's episode is about nothing. It's about everything.
So who's the wayward maniac Kramer then?
Oh,
You'd be Elaine, fickle, uncertain about themselves,
You'd be-
low self-esteem.
oh no, she was very good. You'd be, what's his name? Norbert? Nisbet? Nabbit?
Newman. Hello, Stephen.
Vic could be,
Oh, he's definitely
not Jerry.
He's not Jerry. He's
George Costanza.
oh god, he's always up to something. There's always some racket.
Some rort.
Yeah. Anyway,
Newman's just worried about who's
but
paying for
let's talk
lunch.
about rural property. I was listening to Bernard Salt, who's ex-KPMG demographer, one of the great demographers of Australia.
I like him.
And I was listening to a bit. He was talking about fried egg. I'm going to get this right. So fried egg sort of cities where you've got the yolky bit in the middle and the rest of just like the suburban milk, the white stuff of the egg is suburban milk. And he said it's completely changed now. It started changing back in 2000, but COVID was the key accelerant to completely changing that now, and that's now out. And you've spoken about this for years, Vic. I think you call it I can't remember it, but
Definition of CBD.
Yeah, the sort of satellite cities CBDs, and so like I think you said Blacktown, for example, which is fried egg. So people now will only live, at work, play inside of like a 20-kilometre belt of their own fried egg. And he sort of spoke about regional markets, and this is why one of the accelerants of regional markets right across Australia from an investment point of view, Wollongong, Central Coast, Bendigo, Ballarat, Shepparton, all these type of areas are now their own fried eggs, to use his sentiment towards it. And this is fundamentally changing the way in which Australians live.
I think it's a good analogy. I'd probably take it. It's become more scrambled.
Yeah, maybe. Scrambled egg.
Yeah, where it's been decentrified. Just the workforce has. Yeah. And as a result of that, where people choose to live, and we obviously see that, all of us, and see that now. And the question is, how long does it last for? And why it's something to think about is that will have some directive on your investing decisions.
That's right. And to keep in the same theme, whether it's the flash in the pan or whether it is something that we need to actually pay attention to, right? So if you look at how the investing cycle, the economy, how money flows in the community has morphed. Years ago, all the major businesses, the white collar workers and all that were concentrated on the main CBDs, so postcode 2000, 3000, 4000, right? And so forth. Now especially after COVID, with the diversification, the ability to work remote, and then when you look at how infrastructure is being planned with the increasing population in each major city and the way the governments are helping that grow. I'm talking about the state governments. One's just got to look at and just Google the Greater Sydney Plan, which is a great template to what's happening in most states. And it gives you a really good idea of the mantra that the New South Wales government has, is that no one will be more than half an hour away from their job. Right? So therefore, we are creating all of these employment nodes, both blue collar and white collar, and the consistency of income within that insular community that creates that micronation of investing. So now what you need to do is go to these different employment nodes and say, okay, where can my money work best within my budgets, within my household budgets, and my ability to hold on to the property?
I think it depends on your time frame. Going back to the master plan for Sydney, I think it is unique to Sydney because Sydney is...
It's constrained geographically.
It's geographically constrained, right?
Yep.
So it can happen. But other states, as we all know, can keep going out. I think the key question is, what are local governments and state governments going to do to retain the youth in the areas that are away from, let's call it CBDs, because that will drive the family to make decisions. If there's nothing for them to do.
But that said, and go back to Bernard Stoll, he sort of spoke about gentrification of these areas, and he goes, I think his quote was, when you start seeing smashed avocado in Penrith, I think that's what he said, you know that gentrification has happened. And he said, probably already happened, right? But I think what we've done, guys, is set ourselves up for our next podcast. I think we've really just very quickly went over some pretty sophisticated sort of demographical, conceptual frameworks for how these Australian cities will grow and how Australians will live. So I reckon we need to pick that up, because what I'd like from you both is to challenge those concepts and actually start looking at, okay, well, that's fine. If that's the way it's going to be, how do you therefore make your buying decisions around it rather than just going, I'll invest in Sydney. So it is very complicated. So maybe we can do that next time around with some case studies on some specific locations. If you're up for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess one of the major things we'll highlight over there is that you really should be investing towards a result, not necessarily where you're investing as well. That does come into play, but you need to get the result in first.
Now, Victor, I watch your Facebook lives, which I think are very informative. When do they happen? Every second
Thursday.
Okay.
So if you wanted to listen to our previous episodes, just go onto our Facebook page, and all of the previous Facebook lives are there for you to listen. If you like or follow our page, you'll get notified every time we're live.
Okay, good. And I think there also, people can reach out, contact you and your team if they want to actually have a yarn.
Absolutely. So as we said before, there is a little bit of a process to get in front of either myself or Steve. So you can use the contact me form on the website or reach out through a direct message on Facebook. Melissa, who's a seasoned investor. In fact, one of the things that I want to highlight is that all of our employees at RPG, one of our employment criteria is they have to be property investors. So we are then talking to you from real life experience, not necessarily textbook approach. So when you contact us, Melissa will have a conversation with you to help you get ready for a meeting with either myself or Steve so that you can get the best of our time and we can give you really pertinent recommendations based on your scenario.
And that's a Right Property Group, and that's RIGHT, propertygroup.com. You go and track the guys down there. Gentlemen, Victor, Steve, thanks for your time today. Always enjoy it. We'll be back again next month with Investing Insights with the Right Property Group. I'm Phil Tarrant, host of the Smart Property Investment Show and co-host of this great podcast. We've been going at it for 6 years. I hope you enjoy it. Remember, any feedback, you can send it through to questions@rightpropertygroup.com.au. We're going to do a Q&A episode soon. They're coming in. We're just sort of collating them, curating them together, and we'll get stuck into it, asking or answering all those questions that people are querying. We'll see you next time. Until then, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature, does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs, and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property, or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional.